Let's talk to former British Army Officer Tom Petch, director of the film The Patrol, about British soldiers in Afghanistan. Is this something you can identify with as reality?
Yes, I think that, if you look at the compensation claims over the years in Afghanistan, this has been a significant factor. I mean, there have been civilian casualties, and this is what this story tells us.
But within all of this is embedded the idea that this is, in effect, psychological warfare. I mean, is that realistic? I mean, could something that sophisticated be going on?
Well, it's always been in the Taliban's interest to have civilian casualties from day one, and the problem we've been up against is that though British soldiers and British airmen don't want to inflict civilian casualties, it's the nature of the weapons they're using that occasionally bombs go astray or airstrikes are called in, and there are civilian casualties as a form of collateral damage in the fighting.
How do you deal with this in terms of, or how could the authorities deal with this in the terms that presumably it would be very difficult to examine every single case in great detail, especially where, as Alistair said, we're getting this significant time lag?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. For example, we were making a distinction here. The Taliban are Afghan people. So if you're an active member of the Taliban and you're a farmer and we've killed your goat or cow, we pay out. We're effectively paying a member of the Taliban, but there's no way of distinguishing between him and someone who's just a member of the population.
So within all of this, I mean, people on Twitter this morning, for example, saying, this is outrageous, this must not happen. But within an element of this, and as you say, it has to happen to a degree. It's just whether it's being exploited or not.
It has to happen. It probably is being exploited, and the report from the MOD basically says that. I think what we have to look at is the proportional costs. I mean, we're paying out about 5,000 sterling for a civilian death in Afghanistan, and a JDAM bomb, which is the bombs they use out there, costs 15,000. So actually, in the total cost of the war, which the MOD said is about 19.4 billion so far, these figures aren't enormous. Because
this makes suggestions about what is happening on the ground and how our troops are behaving, whether it is a civilian death or whether it is an animal death, whatever it may be, what impact does this have psychologically on soldiers on the ground?
Soldiers don't want to inflict civilian casualties, but as I said, what I think, if you read these reports, what this does show is the human face of the conflict. For example, we've got one incident where one man lost both his sons and two brothers. We've got another where a husband lost his wife and 5 children. Soldiers don't want to do this, but this is the nature of the conflict we've been fighting.
But then it begs the question, doesn't it, within all of this, I mean, exploitation, psychological warfare, however you want to place it along that scale, is there an argument to say pay it anyway because we can afford it as a country? It's not going to have a devastating impact on our economy, these sort of figures, and it's worth it to placate the locals. It's not worth the hassle, the aggravation, the tension it could cause by pursuing these legally further down the line.
I don't see now how, with us withdrawing, we're going to be able to investigate these effectively. The claims that are already in process. My film, The Patrol, which comes out in February, is critical of the policy as a whole. I don't think that this type of warfare has been effective, and it's been exploited by the insurgents, by the Taliban, to